everybody. This is Joe Bartnick, and welcome to Bert Sugarman's Midnight Special podcast, where we're celebrating Bert Sugarman's Midnight Special. Remember the Midnight Special? It was awesome. Of course you do. You're watching this YouTube channel, and you're listening to this podcast. So many great rock bands, superstars of rock, soul, blues, country, everything. Bert brought everyone together, and we all got to have fun late at night at home on our TVs way before the internet. Remember that, Mike? Of course you do.
Changed the generation, I'm told. A little before my time, but from what I hear, they just used to have bars and fuzz and play the Star Spangled Banner at night, and then that was it?
No, you got to have a little fun and watch the Midnight Special. We're building a community on this channel. You've been watching the videos, which have been fantastic. I have to say, Mike, our producer, Mike, and producer of this show, he curates the videos. They've been awesome. I check them out on all the socials and on the YouTube channel. So good stuff there. So this is kind of building more traffic, building a bigger community by this podcast. So write in, mail in, email in on all the socials. You can, we'll do that at the end. We'll list everything. And even more, buy some of the merch. Look at the killer merch. Look at that killer trucker hat.
I love my hat.
It looks good on you, man. I'll have to put one in my bag. I hope Bert's not listening. But there's T-shirts and all kinds of other stuff too. So it's going to be fun stuff. This is the first episode, and we just can't wait to jump right into it.
Yeah, so each week we're going to be doing some of the comments and keeping you guys involved. So I'll be reading them from all the past episodes, but since this is the first one, I'm going to pull off a few from our fans this week. From our Jimmy Rogers, Kissed Sweeter Than Wine, Zach 87-87 said, I found this song on a companion vinyl and figured it was done with bar chords the old-fashioned way. He must have tuned his guitar special so he could mash it with his thumb. It's always the path of least resistance with these old country legends. Way more tricky on their instruments than you would expect. And I love watching these old videos and watching people before computers, before all the different tunes and things, and the showmanship and way they can play guitars and do everything. Oh, live on the Midnight Special, amazing.
Well, you know why? Because there was showmanship, because there was no computers, there was no graphics. It's just guys jamming. So when you're in a room full of people, you got to be able to play with style and pizzazz.
Yeah, and like bending notes differently to have your own sound that's different than someone else's sound, and just the tricks that all had to be authentic and organic and not a digital thing later that you could play with notes. You had to find a way to bend it on your own.
And think about it, how there's a million guitarists and a million songs, but you can pick out Stevie Ray Vaughan. You can pick out Jimi Hendrix. You can pick out Eddie Van Halen. You can pick out Clapton. The band we're talking about now, you can pick out Angus Young.
Absolutely. We're talking about AC/DC if you haven't caught on, everybody. Today's AC/DC all the way.
I want to say Zach 87-87. Is that a Sidney Crosby reference?
It might be.
It might be. You're already have a new fan, Zach, if it is.
All right. Larry Mills 4019 comment on Bad Company's Can't Get Enough of Your Love. Got to watch a lot of good bands on the Midnight Special. Totally enjoyed when it was on.
Oh, Bad Company is one of the greatest bands ever.
Yeah, and as someone who wasn't alive when this was going and seeing how it was so revolutionary for television, having a way to see all the bands before internet and things that you couldn't get to. I'm from Central Illinois. I know they weren't coming to Central Illinois to see me. So
well, I just remember staying up like it was your glimpse to see an AC/DC or a Bad Company, because even if they came to your town once every 18 months, and this is even before VCR, so you had to just watch it. You had to stay up and, oh, Mom, can I please stay up? AC/DC is going to be on the Midnight Special.
Yeah, I see in some of the comments people will say, oh, wasn't this song on a different episode? And then I realize, well, yeah, it's a hit song and people want to see it and they didn't have access to it any other way.
Right.
So, yeah, we're playing that Bee Gees song or that Kiss song or that AC/DC song on another episode, because how else will you get it?
That's why we got to thank Bert Sugarman.
All the way, Bert. Thank you, Bert. A Blue Dahlia commented on episode 27, why don't we have shows like these today? So amazing. We'll rewatch this, I'm sure.
Yeah, MTV doesn't even play music anymore. There's no shows like this anymore.
The rewatchability of the Midnight Special has been timeless. Talk about evergreen material. There are people who tune in all the time today. I see in the comments, I'm 15 years old and seeing this for the first time. Well, I'm 38 and seeing most of this for the first time.
Well, what Bert captured on the Midnight Special was really the genesis of rock and roll music. Maybe not the Chuck Berry, but, kind of through the adulthood. Maybe not birth and adolescence, but the adulthood of rock and roll music. Like, this is it. These bands are classic rock now. Like, this is the cornerstone of one of every 4 radio stations in America are playing all these songs again.
And really at the birth of technology, and when technology would allow you to start doing that thing. Because before then, just recording live music, people take for granted how difficult the syncs were and getting everything to sound proper in a studio so the band sounds the way they sound on their albums.
Right. Let alone live in the studio. Exactly. Yeah. You're the sound guy, Mike. I know nothing about that. It took me 20 minutes to get the video that we're going to be showing later.
So one of the other segments we want to be doing each week, and we need you guys to participate, is our old school cool photo of the week. This one I got to cheat a little bit and had my dad send a classic photo. But we want you to send your photos to the Midnight Special Podcast at gmail.com. And we want pictures of fashion, pictures of cars, pictures of you at concerts, maybe tour posters, maybe ticket stub collections that some of you guys have.
Oh, some people have some great stub collections. I used to, and then after 30 years of moving around the country, I don't know where they're at now. But yeah, I would love to see old ticket stubs because just the prices will make me cry.
No Ticketmaster fees then.
No fees. No, you had to stand in line and wait in the snow the old-fashioned way. You had to earn your tickets.
Yeah, show your love. Yeah.
Oh, look at this car. Oh, my goodness.
So this is my dad's Corvette Stingray. Beautiful car, orange, got to drive it around all the time. I didn't get to drive it around. I got to be in the passenger seat as a kid. Many trips to the airport, watching the planes through the T-tops of that baby.
Oh, that's just a beautiful... I think I had the Matchbox of that car. No, I don't think I'm pretty sure I did. The Hot Wheels of that car.
Yeah, well, it was a beauty. And we got to thank my mom for being the one who bought it for us.
Did she win the lottery? How'd that even happen?
Proper planning, I guess.
Wow, that's just a beautiful color too. It just pops.
Great memories in that orange one.
It's such a nice car. You can park it on your grass.
Yeah, right in the lawn. Yeah. We didn't do that often. I think that was probably just for that picture. Maybe the day that it was bought. Well, send us your pictures. We want to see all that. And we want to collect maybe a few from Bert because I know Bert had a car collection that, he's got a lot of classic ones.
I mean, he was given a couple cars that were incredible.
Yeah.
Those are some great stories. We'll have him on. He can tell that story. It's an amazing story.
We'll have Bert on plenty of times. So we'll have you guys submit some questions for Bert. So I'm on that note with the old school cool. Let's start getting in the time machine. We got to start going back. We got to start going back to November 24th, 1978. That's when this episode aired with AC/DC, and it was the day after Thanksgiving when gas was 71 cents a gallon.
71 cents again. I remember when I was born in 69. I remember 1978. The Steelers won their 3rd Super Bowl, which I remember. And I remember when gas was 71 cents because my mother, who drove a Duster, would get $2 worth of gas. Like, hand the guy. There was no self-serve. Hand it to Gus. It was Gus Capone.
He'd take care of you for $2.
$2, and he smoked a cigarette, and he'd just throw his cigarette far away from the tank. And imagine today.
Feels like a scene from a movie. Yeah. I can't see that in real life.
Yeah. I mean, imagine just the guy walking up and just throwing a cigarette away, far enough away from the tank. He's, it's my mom and her kid in the car, and just, no one's thinking twice about it.
Well, earlier that week, sports fans had just witnessed the miracle at the Meadowlands when Herman Edwards of the Eagles returned a fumble for a touchdown with just 31 seconds left to defeat the New York Giants.
Joe Pisarcik dropping the ball. It's when Giants fans all thought they were cursed. This is before Parcells and LT.
So in 78 at that time, we had a version of Lord of the Rings in theater and a horror movie called Magic starring Anthony Hopkins.
I'm not familiar with Magic. And Lord of the Rings, I got to say, I saw the movies years later. The books are way too thick for a kid like me.
Well, this was the original movie. They had one made in 78 that I also didn't see, but Those were in the box office.
There you go.
The top television shows at the time were Laverne and Shirley, Three's Company, Mort and Mindy, and Happy Days.
Happy Days was fourth. They'd already kind of jumped the shark by 78.
But we'll always have the reference Jump the Shark from them.
Absolutely.
So the top of the billboards, we had Donna Summer on the U.S. charts with MacArthur Park, and Boomtown Rats led in the U.K. with Rat Trap.
You know, I love Donna Summer. I can't recall that. In the Boomtown Rats, that's Bob Geldof who invented Live Aid.
All right. Well, anyone in the comments can fill us in on the Boomtown Rats. What do we know, everybody?
Yeah, a great name though. It sounds like they should be cool.
Yeah. I could picture some real cool cover art. Someone could make some Boomtown Rats sitting in an alley.
Right. Yeah. Maybe they dressed up like cats, like they were rats.
Nice.
Theater kids.
Well, on this note, now that we've traveled back in time, let's get into AC/DC. They prepared with Ted Nugent as the host.
To get introduced by Ted Nugent in 1978, that is getting blessed by the Pope of hard rock heavy metal. I mean, Ted Nugent was the king in 1970. I think he had 3 albums in a row that went platinum. He was spray painted on every tunnel in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I thought he was a gang leader. He was everywhere.
And not even just Ted Nugent as the host of the episode, but a personal shout out from Aerosmith before their song came on.
Yeah, I mean, Aerosmith, they were like probably the biggest rock band in 1978 as well.
Absolutely. Thin Lizzy, Cheap Trick, they were some other bands that rounded out that lineup. So a night full of rock. AC/DC performed Sin City off their album Power Age.
Yeah, see, some people say, I think British people and people who think they're British want to be intellectual. They call it Power Age. But all of us regular American kids, we always call it Power Age.
I'm young enough, I have to ask for the recommendations from my elders of what's the right way, please tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me so I can pretend to be cool. Well, AC/DC doesn't have to pretend to be cool because they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've sold over 100 million albums. They've won Grammys, topped billboards, and they have done it all.
Well, you know, Back in Black is the 4th best-selling album of all time in America and the 2nd biggest selling all-time album ever in the world.
I believe it. That album cover just seared into everyone's mind.
Every song. There's no deep tracks. They're all famous.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hear them at sports venues everywhere. They're the anthems.
Just the royalties on that alone, they can retire. But they haven't. They're still jamming. They're still playing Europe. It's amazing. I got to go. Yeah, so let's get into the AC/DC. The name AC/DC, when we were kids, there was like, someone's older brother, it means they're gay, right? AC/DC. No, AC/DC the name comes from it was founded by the Young brothers, Angus and Malcolm, back in the early 70s in Australia. And they had like 11 kids or something like that. And Margaret, one of their sisters, on the side of their sewing machine, it said AC/DC, which means alternate current, direct current. And little Angus, he was like 13 and 14 at the time, loved it because it was electricity and power. And that's why they named their band AC/DC.
Hey, they got power, all right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no one rocks like AC/DC. They started in Sydney in 1973. Then they moved to London by 76. They found success first on the album Let There Be Rock, which we know becomes an anthem. 79, they brought Highway to Hell, which was the first time they worked with Mutt Lange, who's an infamous producer. It did their 3 big albums. Also did Pyromania for Def Leppard. Also married Shania Twain. He kind of is a kingmaker.
Gosh, that guy. Man, Shania Twain. Like, you hit me with all of those facts and then topped it off with Shania Twain.
I know. Imagine being that talented and then marrying Shania Twain.
Yeah.
And you can Google what happened with that marriage. I won't get into that. It's a family show.
Oh, don't ruin my dream.
But unfortunately, Bon Scott, the original lead singer, he passed away after the Highway to Hell album. So I remember being in Catholic school. We loved Highway to Hell. And like we said, this is before the internet. So all of a sudden, you just heard their lead singer died. Oh my God, what happened? What's going to happen to them? And then they come back with Back in Black.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to follow and have a new lead singer that quick within a year and then to that level of success. Like, that's
they literally went from being a great rock band, a famous rock band, to being the #1 rock band in the world, and they switched singers. And no band has switched lead singers equally, having 2 great lead singers and didn't miss a beat. I mean, Bon Scott, legend, infamous. There's statues of him around the world. Brian Johnson, just as fabulous. And they didn't miss a beat. Like, there's not one second lead singer in any band that matches Brian Johnson. Correct?
Oh, no.
I mean, yeah, no. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, it's like they think of him as two leads. It's hard to even think of like who would you go first. No,
It's literally like picking between my dogs.
Yeah.
I love them both equally.
And then now that we're in the future here, did you hear those AI tracks of where they would play and to see what the other singer would sound like?
No, really.
Yeah, the AI was interesting. So
Finally, AI good for good use, because I've seen some. I've seen some terrible AI where now, or just hackers. People are on like different websites telling people who died. And I'm like, I have to Google, like, they didn't die.
No,
Old football players, old rock stars, like what?
They used it for good, and they have Bon Scott singing future songs off Back in Black and other things like that.
Oh my God! It makes me want to stop
I'm sure
this
it's not
episode
perfect,
right now.
but it's worth a Google.
Absolutely, I'm going to stop. Cut the episode right now. No, it's fantastic. And that's the thing is AC/DC is still playing to this day, still going at it.
Yeah, they had a huge show out in the desert this year.
No, that was
last year.
That was last year, Power Trip, but now they're touring Europe right now. So fingers crossed they'll be in America very soon.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. They've been such a big part of my life ever since I was in Catholic grade school, because it's AC/DC. They were always Highway to Hell when, you just want to be as evil as you can be. And they're rock and roll. And so if anyone knows me from stand-up comedy or my hockey podcast, I'm a huge hockey guy. The only thing I love more than rock and roll maybe is hockey. And so in 1992, the Penguins were the LA Clippers of the NHL. They never won anything. And we somehow made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, Game 6. AC/DC was playing in Pittsburgh that night. Now, it was a Game 6. So what do? Well, it wasn't Game 7, right? So you go see AC/DC, because they only come around. We talked about like once every 2 years. It was the ultimate, whatever, the Hobson's choice. I think that might be it. But what do? So, we're pre-gaming. We're having a blast. We go see AC/DC. I pretty much forgot about Game 6. I had a few cocktails, and AC/DC was crushing it. And then, right then, Brian Johnson just goes, "Congratulations, Pittsburgh. You've won the Stanley Cup." They show on the big screen Mario Lemieux, our superstar, our hero, kissing the Stanley Cup, skating. Brian Johnson comes out with a tinfoil Stanley Cup. 25,000 people go absolutely berserk. Imagine us getting the Stanley Cup. You know how Pittsburgh's a hockey town. And then literally the venue, Star Lake, is like 10 miles from the airport. 20,000 people went straight there to meet the plane. It was pre-TSA. They stormed the runway. So it's like a legendary riot, but a peaceful riot of just everyone took over the airport.
Just hockey fans.
Yeah. The AC/DC fans and hockey fans. I mean, it's like, AC/DC has probably played at more hockey events. Thunderstruck has probably played more than any other song in every hockey venue on earth. Or Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap. I mean, we can name all the songs played at every sporting event.
Every 5-minute penalty, Dirty Deeds.
Yeah.
Done
Dirt Cheap. Or I'm TNT. Fight.
Yep.
Fight.
Oh, you got to have them queued up right on the board. Well, we have a little love letter that was sent in. You want to tell everyone who it's from?
Oh, yes. I mean, this guy, he's a great friend of mine. He's taken me on the road. I've been able to play Madison Square Garden, Red Rocks, the Forum with him. You know him from all of his Netflix specials. He used to crush on Letterman. You've seen him everywhere. He sold out Fenway Park. He's in The Mandalorian. He's been on Saturday Night Live. He's been in his movies, Old Dads. He's going to be on Broadway coming this winter in Glengarry. Glenn Ross, arguably the greatest comedian of this generation. My buddy, the great Bill Burr.
Well, this might be the easiest video I ever had to make. They're simply, for my money, the greatest rock and roll band of all time. They've just transcended every band I've ever listened to. They've transcended time. I've never seen a band lose a lead singer and come back the same year with a whole new guy that's just as great as the first guy. I mean, I don't even know where to begin or where to end with these guys. Malcolm Young, some of the greatest rock and roll riffs of all time. Angus Young, one of the great lead guitarists of all time. And not one, but two of the greatest frontmen of all time in Bon Scott and Brian Johnson. And then you got Phil Rudd. Oh my God. I could do 9 hours on the brilliance of that guy. Mark Evans and Cliff Williams throughout the years at bass. They're just unbelievable. The tightest band you're ever going to see. And they can just take the simplest riffs and drum beats and make 80,000 people lose their mind for 50 straight years. And I've never seen another band do what they do better. They are truly all rock gods.
There you go. I mean, Bill Burr says it right there. They are truly rock gods. And Bill's a drummer. You know, he's an amazing drummer. And he's a helicopter pilot. Like, he's better at his hobbies than I am at my profession. But, you know, he knows drumming. And that's another thing that makes AC/DC so special is Phil Rudd, because he has the role. He's not just dan. He knows how to sit back in the pocket and let the music roll.
Yeah, you can hop on the internet and you can find some videos of Bill and Dean Del Rey playing AC/DC at some big festivals that they put on as Bon Scott tribute events.
Oh, yeah. Dean puts together, and they get like guys from Guns N' Roses, Velvet Revolver. And Bill can play with those guys.
Yeah. Bill's got chops.
He's got his chops. Just fantastic. Thanks, Bill.
Well, after that tribute from Bill, let's get into some of the tributes and fan submissions from you guys, because we want you to be parts of the show.
Absolutely.
So, from Googly Moogly, 1998-84, feels like a Rodney Dangerfield Googly Moogly or something.
Yeah.
You let us know if that's right.
Hey.
Yeah. 13 years old at the 1984 Donington Monsters of Rock. The image of Angus appearing atop the speakers at the beginning, bathed in the glow of the spotlights, will stick with me forever. Life changed in that very moment. Still with me after 39 years and looking forward to Wembley in July of this year. Greatest band ever. Big shout out to the older brothers of the world.
Absolutely. And for me, the older cousins of the world. And everyone knows when AC/DC strikes them, your life has changed. It's like some people had the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. For comedy, we all had Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy Delirious. But for rock and roll, for our generation, it's like when the first time you heard AC/DC, that guitar, Angus, everything, just nuts. From B. Mizzle, Razor's Edge Tour was my very first concert. Still one of the best I've ever seen. Yeah, they were crushing right then. And Malcolm was on the top of his game. And they were still young, and they were all just younger, you know. I mean, but they had been rock gods already. But great tour. I remember that tour. That's the first time they played Thunderstruck on that tour.
Ooh.
So it's like, you know, they did like, oh, people lose their minds.
Thunderstruck was the big one for me. That was in so many football movies I saw growing up.
Right.
I remember it, and then we always had to play that on the Busta football games. And that was one of the hype ones that was always there. All right, Judy Sarah. Went to see Savoy Brown. AC/DC was the opening act, August 22nd, 1978. We'll never forget Bon Scott in his incredibly tight jeans and Angus in the schoolboy uniform. Definitely made an impression. Was sad when Bon died a few years later.
Yeah, no one could fill out a pair of jeans like Bon Scott. He wore them super tight too. And as a Catholic school kid who had to wear a tie, that's another way to bond with Angus. You know, he was our hero in Catholic school. Like, he was the bad boy boogie.
All right, Michigan Engineer. About 40 years ago, they played Veterans Coliseum in Nassau County, New York. I think it was one of the last shows that had GA floor. All through the show, I was working my way towards the front until the last song, when they went into the opening licks of For Those About to Rock, and these two huge tubes started to grow at the ends of the stage. I was back to center ice when the first carbide cannon shot went off, and to the floor I went. Got back up as fast as I could and headed towards the doors. Didn't notice until I was home that I was bleeding slightly from the ears. No major long-term damage, though.
Well, you know, those things are loud. They literally, I heard they blew a hole in the Silverdome's in Detroit, in the Superdome in Seattle.
Ooh, I wonder what the bill for that one is.
It's funny too, not even funny, but that's why, Brian Johnson had to miss a couple years of touring because he had ear damage. But he's had some miracle ear surgery, thank God, knock on wood. He's all better. He's touring again. And that's how loud those cannons are, though. AC/DC concerts are loud, and then the cannons are even louder than the music.
Yeah. The pyrotechnics on stage, it's like,
Yeah.
all right. I've seen some interesting videos now that YouTube's around, so I can't imagine back then the things that would have been captured on camera if the cameras were there.
Oh, thank God there was no cameras at these concerts.
All right, Frank Rodriguez. My favorite AC/DC memory is their performance at SARS in Toronto in the summer of 2003. The audience that day was 500,000 strong. Oh my gosh. The headliners were the Rolling Stones. It was an incredible event that lasted the whole day. When AC/DC came on, the crowd of 500,000 went completely nuts. Their set was absolutely astounding. They blew the Rolling Stones and everyone else off the stage. To this day, everyone still remembers this festival as the one where AC/DC absolutely destroyed the Rolling Stones.
This is interesting because those are literally my two favorite bands of all time, AC/DC and the Rolling Stones. And the Rolling Stones are the only band that AC/DC has opened up for since 1980.
You're going to open for someone, I mean.
It's got to be the Stones. Well, they did it here, and they did it a couple times in Paris just as friends. So then Angus and Malcolm would come out and play like old B.B. King songs with them in the middle of the Rolling Stones set.
Leave a comment if you've ever seen a headlining band open for a different headliner that they were a fan of. I once saw Pearl Jam open for Tom Petty at a festival, so that's mine.
Wow. Yeah, I saw Pearl Jam open for the Rolling Stones as well. What's funny about this is, Rush was like, oh, this is our hometown. We should go before AC/DC. We should go after AC/DC. And Mick Jagger's like, you can't follow AC/DC.
Sometimes your friends are just looking out for you.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Rachel Laurent, 16 years old from New Orleans. Floor seats. When they would only let a certain number of people on the floor. It was $16, making me sad, Rachel. White Tiger played with them. It was my very first concert with my best friend. I still remember every moment. We sang our hearts out, hugged strangers because everyone there was so thrilled to be there. Those were the days. I'm 52 now. I will cherish these moments. We knew every lyric. That's one thing about AC/DC. Everyone knows the lyric to every song.
Even if you don't think you do, you start going into their discography and you've heard it enough and around where like, oh yeah, I do.
Oh yeah. Even if you hear a song on the radio, it's like you think the next song's going to be like Shake a Leg because you've listen to Black and Black a million times.
All right. Well, Rod Raslack, if I got that right. Rod Raslack. It was St. Paul, Minnesota, early 2000s. I'd recently moved there and had never before seen the band. The Excel Energy Center had a policy whereby when you are standing in line before box office opens, they come around with a lottery type, pick number out of a hat that determines your place in line. I had my 10-year-old daughter with me. The guy offered me to pick a number, and then once he was walking away, I said, hey, what about her? He thought for a second, and I guess decided I was right, and he let her pick. She won third in line. I bought the max 10 tickets. I got them in the third row. Hearing that was never the same after that, but it was worth it.
Oh, my God. I hope your daughter got a great gift from Santa that year.
Oh, she earned it. I'm sure he took her to buy scratch-off tickets after that.
Well, the thing is, too, he must have made him in because he sold the other, 7 seats as well, right?
Or he had 7 friends say, hey, man, you have what tickets?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, he had a hell of a party. That's great. That's what, my daughter's done some cool stuff for me, but that's really cool.
I had a neighbor who used to always buy 10 tickets whenever he went to the Hollywood Bowl to something because he always wanted a whole entourage of friends to go with him. So if you got 10 tickets, you have to think 10 friends at AC/DC in the third row that you'll remember forever, or the extra cash for 7 tickets. That's a tough.
The Hollywood Bowl, you must have some rich friends, Mike. An extra 7
There's
seats.
a lot of seats, and it goes up really high. I didn't tell you where we sat.
All right. No, that's great. I wonder if he named his daughter Rosie for a whole lot of Rosie.
Yeah.
Olga Jackson. When my brother's band opened for AC/DC during the Who Made Who tour in ’86, our grandmother went to the show as well as the rest of our family. She rocked out even when we thought she didn't speak English. Olga, what was your brother's band? Was he in Great White? I mean, I think that's who opened for them on that tour. Or was it Fastway? Olga, give your brother some props.
Yeah, you buried the lead. We need to know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, though, Olga. We do appreciate your submission. We appreciate everyone's submissions. The Midnight Special Podcast at gmail.com is how you can submit stuff. And we'll be posting on our Instagram and things like that, all the questions, so you know what bands we're going to be talking about next.
Yeah, and one thing we want to do is get some merch, because then it's just like a cool hat like that, a cool shirt. It just, I love that 70s retro.
And when
look.
we find each other at concerts, because I mean, there's 300-some thousand subscribers to the channel now. So when we see each other at concerts, we all know, like, you're part of the Midnight Special group.
Yeah,
So
part of the Midnight
Special. Get a T-shirt, get a beer hoagie, get a hat, get something.
Say hi to Olga.
Yeah.
and you should also become a YouTube member for $4.99. You get extra the Midnight Special episodes every Monday morning. Join us in the live chat Friday night for our weekly episodes of the Midnight Special. We want to thank everyone again for all your submissions. Please keep sending them in to the Midnight Special Podcast at gmail.com, or send us a message on social media. And I just want to thank Bert Sugarman and his team for letting me do this. How much fun is this, Mike? I want to thank Mike, the producer, for being such a great producer. This is awesome.
And thanks, Bill Burr.
Thank you. I got to thank Bill Burr for everything. I could just write his credits for an hour. I mean, that's how great his career is going. And go see him on Broadway. Glenn Ross.
Yes. You send him a Christmas card. I owe Bert a Christmas card. We'll cover all of our bases.
Right on.
So let the